Welcome to this Tools on Air Academy episode about the new bandwidth management capabilities in JustStore version 4. In this tutorial we will be showing you how to limit the available bandwidth for each network interface in order to balance the amount of read and write actions and prioritize client connections to ensure performance stability, especially for mixed ingest, editing and playout scenarios. Before we continue, we assume that your JustStore system is fully operational and that you have access to the web-based JustStore administration interface. Let's start by logging into your JustStore system with your credentials. In this tutorial we will use TOA admin as the username and admin. As the password. Click on the login button to connect. In the JustStore dashboard overview, you will see all information related to your JustStore system. Click on the Network menu item in the sidebar pane to access the network configuration page. In the Network overview page, you will see all the interfaces of your JustStore system, as well as a menu called Bandwidth Limitation. Click on this menu to proceed to the Bandwidth Limitation page. In the Bandwidth Limitation overview page, the available JustStore network interfaces will be displayed, and you will be able to apply a bandwidth limitation rule to either the incoming or outgoing traffic or to both. In this tutorial we will apply a bandwidth limitation logic to a mixed recording, editing, and playout workflow scenario, with all client network connections going through a dedicated 10 gigabit network switch and connected to one available 10 gigabit port on your JustStore system. The bandwidth limitation will be configured for one dedicated playout system, 2 editing stations, and 1 ingest server, which are connected all through a 10 gigabit switch to the P6P2 network port on the example JustStore system. Let's start with the first rule by clicking on the plus button related to the P6P2 network port. In the configuration window we need to specify this rule to be both incoming and outgoing by selecting the outgoing checkbox. Next, enter the IP address 172.16.6.19 in the source network and destination network fields for your exemplary playout system, connected via a 1 gigabit link to the switch. For this, and all other rules, there's no need to enter a subnet mask or port value in the related fields, so that you can proceed directly to the rate field. Enter 25, as we want to limit the bandwidth to 25 megabytes per second for the playout system. Click on the Add Bandwidth Limitation button to save the first rule. We will now create a second rule for the first editing workstation, connected via a 10 gigabit link to the switch. Click on the Add Rule button to enter the configuration window. Select the outgoing checkbox and enter the IP address 172.16.6.20 in the source network and destination network fields, and the value to 100 in the rate field, as we want to limit the bandwidth to 200 megabytes per second for this editing workstation. Click on the Add Bandwidth Limitation button to save the second rule. The third rule is for the second editing workstation, this time connected via a 1 gigabit link to the switch. Click on the Add Rule button, and in the configuration window, select the outgoing checkbox and enter the IP address 172.16.6.21 in the source network and destination network fields, and the value 25 in the rate field, as we want to limit the bandwidth to 25 megabytes per second for this editing workstation. Click on the Add Bandwidth Limitation button to save the third rule. And finally, the fourth rule for the exemplary ingest system, connected via a 10 gigabit link to the switch. Click on the Add Rule button, and in the configuration window, select the outgoing checkbox and enter the IP address 172.16.6.22 in the source network and destination network fields, and the value 500 in the rate field, as we want to limit the bandwidth to 500 megabytes per second for the ingest system. Click on the Add Bandwidth Limitation button to save the fourth and final rule. To summarize, you have now created 4 different bandwidth limitation rules so that the exemplary 4 stations each have their dedicated and allocated bandwidth to match your intended workflow. For more information about our solutions, please visit our web and support site or contact us via email.